Hi everybody, Heather from New Zealand here. We're working our way through creating a personal money plan so we can have our money organised, pay our bills, have money put aside for extra goals that we've got. If you're interested in building your money plan and getting on to the next step, keep watching. I'm Heather, I live in New Zealand and I am a trained personal family budget advisor. So all this information that I'm giving you is really solid. I've seen it work with clients, I've seen it work with family and friends. So this is some really excellent information to get you where you need to go. Anyway, let's do a little review. Let's see where we're up to and then let's take our next steps on this journey. Our first step was to look at our income. And I asked you to write down all the sources of income that you have. Now, I don't know if you remember, but we have my friend Jane, and she has given me her income. We wrote down what it was, how much she received, and how often. So that was step one. So I really hope that you've done that. As I've said, you can always go back and do it later if you need to catch up. So last session, step 2, I asked you to write a list of all your living costs. And you'll see here that Jane has done this. This is Jane's family costs, what, how much, and how often. So the same as the previous step. So let's look at this a little bit more closely and we can talk about it in more detail. Okay, so here we have Jane's family costs. So let's go down the list and see what she's got. Obviously she has rent, she pays $265 and she pays that weekly. Electricity, $180, that's a monthly bill that she has. Phone, $100 and that's monthly. Jane also has a credit card that she's paying off. Now that's $50 monthly. That amount is her minimum payment. Phone, $100 and that's monthly. Jane also has a credit card that she's paying off. Now that's $50 monthly. That amount is her minimum payment. It's not the amount she owes, but we'll look at paying off credit cards in a later video. At the moment, we're just making sure that that monthly payment is in here. She also has HP payments. That was a couch that they bought, and that's $100 monthly minimum payment. Petrol and gas is $80 a week. Insurances is $150. That's a monthly bill. Okay, you're getting the idea now. We've got one here. This is cars. Now, they put aside $1,000 a year for unseen car costs. So that might be maybe a breakdown. They're allowing $1,000 a year for that. Personal cash, $60 a week. They allow themselves to spend on things that aren't on this list. Maybe going out or buying a treat for themselves. They've also got school costs for the kids of $20 weekly. Kids' pocket money, they give the kids $10 each a week. They have to pay water rates of $80 monthly. Sports, they're part of a sports club and they have to pay $150 a month to cover those costs. The kids have extra lessons, they're $50 a week added up all together. These other things at the bottom, medical, $500, they estimate that's what they might need in 6 months. Dental, the same again, they've allowed $500 twice a year. Presents, they reckon all up they spend about $1,000 on Christmas and birthday. Haircuts, $200 every couple of months, and a vet bill of approximately $300 a year. Okay, so what you can see from that is that Jane's family have quite a long list. Now, Jane was a little bit concerned because some of those figures she felt she was estimating. I said, don't worry, don't get delayed by trying to do it perfect. Put down your best estimate that you think that you are going to spend in the next year on these items. It's better to have something down and something put away for bills that are coming than not even to take them into consideration before. There was also a concern that Jane had that maybe she didn't have everything on her list. Had she thought of all the possibilities? Again, don't worry about it. Put down what you know. Let's start the process. If we need to go back and add things, that's fine. Once you've learned how to do this system, you'll find that adjusting it is easy. Okay, so that's a quick review of where we're up to. So what's the new step we're going to take today? I don't know if you noticed, but there was a glaring item there that wasn't on that list, and that was food. That's what I want us to look at today. I want you to find out how much you spend each week on food to feed your family. Now, when I say food, I mean stuff you buy from the grocery store. So that would include, obviously, the food you cook for dinners, breakfasts, school lunches you make at home. It would include toilet paper, shampoo. It would include cleaning products. Anything you buy from the grocery store. Do not include on that list things like wine, even though you possibly buy them in the grocery store, because technically wine is not a food group, although many of us would like it to be. So what does it cost to feed your family? Over this next week, to actually keep a note of what you spend on food. And again, I'd like you to write it down in your little book if a book system is what you're using. You might be doing this on your phone. But I'm going to ask Jane to write it down on her book. So all the money you spend at the grocery store, I'd also like you to put down the money you spend on food outside of the grocery store. So that would be takeaways, that would be restaurants, that would be the kids buying their lunch on the way to school. Write it all down. Make a note of it on your phone so we can gather that information and we can do something with it. So that's your step, that's your mission for this week, is to gather the information on your food. Now, many people have said to me, but how much should I be spending? I know there's what I am spending and what I'm not spending, and I've got a really good resource for that. The University of Otago here in New Zealand does a study every year on the cost of food and groceries in New Zealand, and it puts out a report. Now this is gold, this information. This applies to New Zealand, and you may be watching this video in another country, so I can't tell you exactly what the figures would be for your country, but let's use this as a guideline because this is what Jane will be working with. And also it gives you a starting point and some ideas, and you may find that there's some of the universities in your countries have done similar studies that you may be able to find this information for. They've broken it down into how much it costs to feed a male, a female, an adolescent boy, an adolescent girl, a 10-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. They've divided it into different cities because different cities have different prices for things, different areas, and of course that's going to be even more exaggerated if you're watching from a different country. So let's take the area where Jane lives. Jane lives in Auckland in New Zealand. Now they have 3 different categories. They've given 3 figures. So they've got a very basic budget, they've got a moderate budget, and then they've got what they call a liberal budget. So for Jane, and I'll give you some example of the difference. For Jane, she is a female, and they're saying that she needs $60 a week on groceries to feed her. They're on the basic. That's the basic budget. On the moderate budget, she would spend $78, and on the liberal budget, she would spend $94. So that's quite a bit of difference that they've allowed. So if we do some quick maths for Jane and her family, and we look at the moderate amount of groceries, so the middle of the range, so we will put aside $93 for her husband John. We allow $78 for Jane herself. Now her adolescent boy, who's going to eat the most, we're going to put $97 a week aside for him, and for their 10-year-old daughter we're going to do $67 a week. So you add that all up, and Jane would be looking at spending $335 a week on groceries to feed her family. Okay, so that gives Jane a starting place of where she could go. So if any of you would like a link to this study in New Zealand, please let me know. Put it down in the comments, and if people want it, I'll definitely add a link to this description for that. If you have any other questions, please ask them in the comments. I'm really happy to dialogue with you about these things. Next session, we're going to be tying it all together. We're going to come up with a weekly amount that you need to live on. We're going to see if you're earning that weekly amount. If you're not, we're going to say, okay, how can we solve these problems? If you've got a bit left over, how can we pay off some debts? If you don't have a bit left over, how can we pay off some debts? So all these things are coming in the videos next time. So please do subscribe so you don't miss out on any of this. Okay, I'll say bye from now from New Zealand, and I'll see you soon.